Hello there, my name is Dan and welcome to my allotment here in Essex in the southeast of the UK. So into June now, some lovely weather today. Had an amount of rain yesterday which has been really lovely for the allotment here, so very much appreciative of that. So I've done a lot of planting, and what I thought I'd do is to take the camera around. You can see what I've done here. I'll give you some dates of which when I initially sowed them, the majority of which were sown in my polytunnel, and also the dates in which I planted them out here and some methods that I've employed in order to grow them. So hopefully you can learn something that you can apply to your own garden or at your own allotment. So when I initially bring on my plants, I like to sow the seeds in modules, generally in my polytunnel, or if it's a bit earlier in the year, or if I want some additional protection from things like rodents which can eat things like Courgette seeds and also damage or indeed eat other seeds as well, maybe the windowsill. But I like to use modules, trays, pots, whatever, of multi-purpose compost. Sometimes I add a little bit of something like sharp sand, maybe a quarter of sharp sand to the mix if I'm worried about drainage and the plants sitting in too much moisture, so to hopefully avoid damping off. But generally it's just cell trays of multi-purpose compost, and had a good germination rate. Got a variety of things here. I've got some sweet corn here, courgettes, cucumbers, more sweet corn. I have French beans there. Over there I have some runner beans, got some tomatoes, some more squashes behind me as well, and in my little homemade cold frame, so to speak, mini polytunnel, whatever, I have a variety of exotic plants. So let's take a look and have a closer look, shall we? This area here is about 5 metres that way, which is around 16 feet, and about 4.7 metres that way, which is around 15 feet. So it's about 24 square metres here, which is around 240 square feet. So a nice size and very manageable. So I've got a variety of plants here. So we'll start here with the runner beans. So I've got a variety of runner beans here. Now this variety here is a variety called Streamline, which I initially planted on the 20th of April, and I planted them out on the 11th of June. So they are doing well here, starting to go up the canes now, and they're looking nice and strong and nice and green. So I've got about 2 per cane, maybe some have got 3, but in general I've got 2 there. And you can see how I've linked my canes together at the top. So very simple design, just pushed together like that with a cane through the top and then tied with string. So the majority of plants I'm going to show you here are planted out on the 31st of May or the 1st of June. Now, I've largely employed the no-dig method here, or a slight deviation to it. I do like the no-dig method. It's brilliant for someone like myself who works as a manual labourer basically all day, and then of course I like to minimise the amount of labour I do on my own gardening, because many of you can understand why I do that. So, one issue with regards to the no-dig method is sourcing enough compost in order to cover an area. So of course you've got various options to that. You can buy compost, but that's prohibitively expensive for the majority of people to keep doing that, and of course that includes me as well. So also you can make your own, of course. That takes time, it takes effort as well, and even someone like myself who can get things like grass clippings etc from my work, that does, you know, that you still need a lot of it in order to create enough compost to cover areas. So what I've done is I've spread some compost on the top here, not too much, but I've actually set into the ground underneath used a hand trowel, and so I haven't dug the soil in effect with a fork or anything like that. Of course I've dug it a little bit to be able to put the plant in, but I've not disturbed the soil too much. I've kept it to a minimum. So there we are, and hopefully in the autumn I can put some compost down over this. I've got some being made currently in the compost bin behind me there. So there we are. So I took on this allotment in December last year, and about a month or so after I took the allotment on, I applied this membrane to this, basically this entire area here. Now, it did in fact have a membrane here already, which was very handy because it had acted as a weed suppressant. So there weren't too many weeds, grass etc on this area here, so I basically added to it, continued with it by by putting this membrane down. The other membrane had some holes in it, etc. This is more effective, and it kept the area largely free of weeds. So I took it off, and you could see, you know, it's basically weed free. So I can keep it weed free by hoeing it, and very much acts with the sort of time efficiency of the allotment. So anyway, here I have a variety of sweet corn. This is very interesting. This is bicolour sweet corn, so it's actually multicoloured sweet corn. Very interesting. So I initially planted that on the 12th of April, and I think this went out on the 1st of June. So very good. I've got a few specimens there. I've got them about a foot or so apart, which is around 30 centimetres, something like that. It's generally recommended when you're growing sweet corn, you have the rows about a metre or so apart, but you can see I haven't done that, but I'm quite happy with how that's going to turn out. Here I have Market More cucumber, Market More 76 this is. It's a really nice cucumber, an outdoor cucumber, a prickly one. You can either let it trail all over the show, or you can grow it up canes or a trellis or something like that. I think this went out on the, yes, this went out I believe on the 1st of June, and this was initially planted on the 6th of May. So they're looking very good indeed. Now here, what do we got? We have Trista White Courgette, there we are, and this is a Kousa courgette. Trista White Long, I think is the full name, planted initially on the 18th of April, and that went out I believe on the 1st of June. So quite nice specimens there. They're looking healthy, they're sturdying up lovely, and the rain that came yesterday really has helped with that. This here is double red sweet corn. So it's a red sweet corn, very interesting to look at. Quite excited about how these are going to turn out. So initially planted these on the 12th of April, and these went out I think on the 31st of May. So they're looking good. Once again, grown the same as the bicolour sweet corn I just showed you. So a foot or so apart, 30 centimetres. Quite excited about that. I'm hoping that there's going to be enough wind down here. I certainly think there is, for them to pollinate themselves, so I don't have to get too involved with shaking them about and rubbing the tassels, etc. So yeah, they're looking good, and I'm expecting some lovely great things from them. So I'm very happy actually with how this entire area has worked out so far. So I'll show you some beans that I've got growing. Now these are very interesting actually. These are yellow French beans, climbing French beans, and these are variety, let's have a look, Necker Gold. So there we are. I can see how I planted these. Now I initially planted them on the 6th of May in cell trays in the polytunnel, and you can see they're looking really good. I had some of these sort of shorter canes that were in the shed when I took on this allotment, so I decided to use them. So they're quite strong, good quality canes, and I've got about 2 beans here, 2 bean plants per cane, and they're growing up like so, and you can see, and this watering can was already here, so I've used that to hold them together, and you can see I've stuck 2 canes up there so they can climb all the way up there. If I'm not mistaken, this is a variety that can climb quite high, but of course they're only going to get as high as the cane will allow. Well, I've runner beans here. So this is variety Streamline, which I initially planted on the 20th of April, and I planted them out once again either on the 31st of May or the 1st of June. So the reason why I'm saying either of those dates here is because the tags in which I wrote the dates on, I used a different colour marker pen because I couldn't find the black one, and the rain has washed it off. But it was one of those dates, it's only a day or so apart, so we don't need to worry too much. Now, here I have Necker Gold, yellow French bean, all planted along here, and they are looking really nice and healthy. Down here I have Cherokee Trail of Tears, climbing French beans, very historical beans, so you may wish to look that one up. Now, I planted them initially, let's have a look, on the 14th of April, and here we are. Hasn't rubbed off or washed off in the rain. Planted them out on the 1st of June, so I've got 2 per cane there, and I'm expecting, you know, it's a nice variety bean area, so runner beans and also climbing French beans as well, different varieties, and this will be quite nice growing up the canes here, and hopefully some lovely beans later in the year. Bennings Green Tint Patty Pan Squash. Look that one up, very nice squash. I've grown them before, and one great thing about them is the plants are compact. They're not like sprawling plants, which squashes generally can be. So if you want a squash to grow in a small space, Benning's green tint could be the one for you. They look like flying saucers and very interesting, and there's quite a history attached to these sort of squashes as well, which you may wish to look up. So planted 6th of the 5th and planted out once again 31st of May or the 1st of June. So they're looking very good indeed. I'm expecting some lovely things from them. Look at these pigeons. They would absolutely love to eat some of my cabbages, wouldn't they? They're down there. Yes, you would, wouldn't you? So this growing area was created with not too much effort, honestly speaking. So took on the allotment last December, got the membrane down quick. Of course, the membrane that was already here did help, but it had holes in it, weeds were growing through it, etc. So I got my own down and it suppressed the weeds, stopped them growing, and you can see the growing area is absolutely lovely. So very, very good. So maybe if you've got a patch of garden, whatever, a part of your allotment that you want to cultivate, but you haven't got time, you haven't got the energy, or you simply can't be bothered to dig it over, or maybe like me, you are a manual worker and you really, one of the last things you want to be doing on your time off is doing more manual work. So covering it over is a way of creating a lovely growing area. So just be able to keep these weeds down by using the hoe, and as long as I keep on top of it, no problem at all. And because I'm not going to be digging the soil, I should be cultivating good soil quality over time. And the way that I look at growing an allotment in a garden or whatever, you know, you don't want to be thinking of it as a quick fix really. Once you know it's something that you're going to be carrying on with, you want to be working on cultivating your soil like you'd cultivate so many things in life. You know, cultivate your soil, cultivate your allotment, because you know you'll build upon the soil quality over time and you should get better and better crops as the years go by. So certainly is worth doing, and hopefully my compost there, some of it may be ready by the autumn for a nice spread over the top. If it can't be called compost by then, it certainly could probably be called mulch, so that will be very handy. So I've got some compost bins here which I built out of pallets. So the majority of this grass has come from my grass cutting jobs. So let's have a look. Oh, goodness God, can you see that steam? Goodness gracious. Oh yeah, you really can't keep your hand in there for long. Oh, that is hot. But let you have a look at that. So regarding compost, I would, in an ideal situation, turn it about once a month, you know, maybe from one side of the compost bin to the other, or maybe from here into that one and vice versa. But due to what I've described, I can't really budget time to do that. You know, time budgeting is one of the most important skills you can learn for gardening. And of course, this is composting on its own, doing its own thing without any intervention from me. As you can just see that steam coming up. I hope you can see that. Right, so just we'll go. We've got some serious heat. There you go. So when you're composting, you want about a 60-40 or 50-50 carbon-nitrogen ratio. So grass is it's a nitrogen, otherwise known as a green. I've also got some leaves in there which are a carbon, otherwise known as a brown. And it's looking very good actually. So 50-50, half of each, green and brown, or 60-40, 60% green, 40% brown is another one I like to use. You don't want it too wet. Should be like a sort of like a damp sponge, just so you can sort of feel a bit of moisture in there, but you certainly don't want to be squeezing that and moisture just sopping out the bottom. You don't want that. So, but you need enough moisture so that the bacteria can work. So very, very warm in there, and hopefully this will be ready, as I stated earlier, by the autumn. Beautiful. Another point with regards to compost, some people are worried about putting compost that they've made themselves on their ground because of weed seeds in it. So when composting, ideally you want about 1 metre by 1 metre squared at least, which is around 3.3 by 3.3 feet. That way the volume's enough for some heat to get up in it so that it kills the weed seed. So you can see this is actually considerably bigger than that, and you can see the mass of compost, or the material to be compost, down there, and the heat that it's generating. So when this is full size, full of matter to compost, you can imagine the heat in there. So that's one factor. So yeah, about 1 metre by 1 metre squared, and you should be able to get some good heat in there. And building one out of pallets, quite often builders, merchants give pallets away for free. That's where the majority of these came from, and you can build yourself some pallets, some compost bins, very minimal cost. So here are my little homemade polytunnel greenhouse, large cold frame, whatever. So I've got a variety of really nice what could be called exotic plants. So I just talk about one. So watermelon variety, Crimson Sweet, initially planted on the 18th of April and planted out on the 31st of May. So melons like a temperature of about 20 to 30 degrees C in order to thrive. You will get a bit of variation that they can tolerate either side of that, but that's what I call ideal. So that's about 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So I was considering, in fact, I've set one outside behind me in the area in which I showed you earlier, or part of it anyway, in the membrane there, in one of the holes cut. So we'll see how that does, but generally in the UK you want to be growing melons under cover if you can. That's my opinion anyway, certainly watermelons. So we'll see how they do. Variety Crimson Sweet. Anyway people, going to leave the allotment now. Could show you a lot more, as many of you are aware, but you know, I've got all sorts that we can be covering. So you know, I'm growing into 6-7 month old horse manure down here. Got some potatoes there, got some potatoes on another part of the allotment. So you know, loads to come, loads of videos that I can be making in the future. So if you'd like to be notified of any videos I'm going to put up, please feel free to subscribe, and you can click on the bell icon. That way you'll be notified of any videos that I put up. Of course you can like my work, and if you think anyone else would be interested in what I'm doing, whatever, you could share my content as well. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you all dropping by to see what Dan is doing at his allotment in Essex, UK, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for viewing, and enjoy your weekend.